Alright, let's react to this video.
When it comes to fat loss, there's no doubt that your diet is the most important factor that you have to get right. Even if your training is on point and consistent, you're simply not going to see the results you want without a proper nutrition strategy.
Burger and split squats, nice. Yes, I would say that for weight loss, nutrition is like at least 80% and exercise maybe 20%. Strength training can help you build muscle and lose more fat. So strength training is very beneficial. Cardio doesn't have that much benefits, but exercising in general is very healthy, and like walking and just being more active during the day will help you burn more calories, but it doesn't help as much as your nutrition. Abs are made in the kitchen.
But this is where most people fail, and I honestly don't blame them. We're constantly overwhelmed with new diets that are supposedly the new best way to lose fat, so it becomes extremely difficult to know which approach to take. But the real truth is, every single diet or dieting method out there works the exact same way. They all achieve fat loss by causing you to eat at a caloric deficit, meaning that you're eating less calories than you're burning every day. Research has proven time and time again that whether it's keto, intermittent fasting, and so on, although these diets may each have certain psychological and physiological benefits, none of these diets or methods have any special fat loss effect. They instead work by making it easier for you to eat less calories, simply meaning that the best diet for fat loss is really the one that you personally enjoy the most and will be most consistent with. However, with that being
Yes, there are plenty of different diets, and whatever works for you is the best diet.
said, regardless of what approach you choose, there are a few factors that you need to get right in order to optimize your diet for fat loss, and are mainly how many total calories, protein, carbs, and fats you're consuming on a daily basis. So as for your calorie intake, if you want to maximize fat loss while minimizing muscle loss, then you have to pay close attention to how many calories you're intaking. Research indicates that this is best done with a moderate caloric deficit that enables you to lose around 0.7% of your body weight per week, which is around 1 pound of weight loss per week for most people. In fact, a more aggressive calorie deficit was actually shown to hinder fat loss as opposed to accelerate it. And if you're
Alright, so yes, so calorie is the most important thing for weight loss. Now, this is something I don't agree with. He says that everybody should lose like 0.7% of body weight per week with a moderate calorie deficit. But if you have a higher body fat percentage, you can go really more aggressive and lose more weight faster. This is only for athletic people. You can see here in this table from the Menno Henselmans PT course 2020, it says what's your optimal energy deficit in percentage and your maximum weekly weight loss in percentage of body weight compared to your body fat percentage. I showed this in one of my previous videos entitled How much calorie deficit for fat loss and weight loss. So for example, if you are overweight and you have more than 21% body fat percentage for a man, then the 0.7% of body weight weekly weight loss is really low because your maximum is 1.5. So your optimal deficit, like to have fast results, is double what he recommends. So you can lose weight 2 times faster than what he recommends. The more body fat percentage you have, the faster you can lose weight.
Intake should be. A good starting point and something recommended from a 2014 paper from Eric Helms and colleagues is to simply multiply your body weight by 13. Although this won't be spot on for everyone, you can start with that and then increase or decrease your calories based on how your weight loss progresses.
Okay, so here he gives a recommendation for calorie intake, but it's pretty inaccurate, and as I said, people who have more body fat percentage can be more aggressive. I wouldn't recommend this. So in this table that I showed you previously, you can see your optimal percentage of energy deficit. So if you choose like 40%, you take your maintenance energy for one day and you reduce it by 40%. And to calculate your maintenance energy intake, you can watch my video how to calculate your energy expenditure. Also, there are calculators online. They can be fine. You can use them. Multiplying by 13 can be a good guideline for some people, but also a lot of people it won't work for them. So if you want to make sure that you have a good energy intake target, then I suggest you calculate it, or you send me a message and I can calculate it for you
throughout the next little while. As for protein, it's the most important macronutrient you want to keep track of, since research has repeatedly shown that it plays a major role in maintaining muscle while you're in a caloric deficit.
Yes, protein, I agree. is the most important macronutrient. If you maintain muscle mass or build muscle mass, then you will lose more fat.
And although how much protein you should intake will always be a highly debated topic, a recent 2018 meta-analysis from the Journal of Sports Medicine found that intaking at least 0.73 grams of protein per pound of body weight is enough to maximize muscle growth and maintenance. However, I personally find that since we know that protein is the most satiating macronutrient, so it can better help keep you full throughout the day, and it just acts as a buffer to help minimize any potential muscle loss.
It's true that protein is the most satiating macronutrient, but only up to a point. When you reach the recommendation, then it stops being satiating. You really don't have any benefit going higher than the recommended amount, except that maybe you don't want to eat that much carbs and fat, but usually people prefer to go to the recommended protein intake and increase the fat or carb intake. You don't have to go very high in protein because that has no benefit. Menno Henselmans, the leader of evidence-based fitness, wrote 2 articles on his website about how much protein do you need for maximum satiety, and he concluded that once you are at the recommended amount and your body has sufficient protein for muscle growth, then it doesn't help with satiety anymore to have more protein. Of course, you can go higher in protein and because it has no negative effects, but it doesn't help on satiety or fat loss.
Now, as for carbs and fats, despite the ongoing debate between low-fat versus low-carb diets, a recent 2018 year-long randomized clinical trial with over 600 subjects found that when protein is the same, both low-fat and low-carb diets are equally as effective for fat loss.
Yes, this is true. Both high-carb and low-carb are effective for fat loss, and it really depends on your eating habits, on your food preferences, if you prefer high-carb, low-carb, what you can sustain long-term. Studies also show that if you stay low carb for a long time, then you will start liking low carb foods more. And if you stay high carb for a long time, you will start liking high carb foods more. One little factor is that most people follow a low carb diet more easily because of the food choices. And also a lot of people are carb intolerant, so their body responds better to high fat, low carb than to high carb, low fat. So for those people, low carb is better. But yeah, if protein is equated, both high carb and low carb work well.
In reality, these two factors can be adjusted based on what kinds of foods you enjoy. But generally, the literature recommends a fat intake of around 0.25 to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight from healthy fats. And then the rest of your calories minus your protein, of course, coming from carbs. Research does also...
Yeah, so these are good numbers. The thing with fat intake is that you need a minimum amount so that your hormones function well. For example, you don't want to have low testosterone just because you don't eat fat. And what Menno Henselmans recommends is to have at least 20% of your calories from fat. And you may have additional anabolic benefits from going up to 40%. Then it may help with muscle growth. And if it helps with muscle growth, it can help indirectly with fat loss.
Suggests that females might do better sticking to the higher end of that fat range. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Now that you've learned the basics regarding setting up and optimizing your diet for fat loss, let's take a look at what a typical day of eating for fat loss looks like for me. So before we get started with the first meal, here are the main goals I try to achieve with my diet. Goal 1 is what I previously discussed, and currently my main focus is to intake roughly 2,300 calories and around 165 grams of protein a day. Goal 2 is to help keep me full since fruits and veggies are often low in calories, and they help me minimize any micronutrient or fiber deficiencies.
Yeah, so fruits and veggies, everybody knows it's healthy, and fiber intake is really underrated because fiber is really good for health, it's really good for digestion, it's good to suppress appetite, for satiety, and it helps with weight loss.
Goal 3 is a good idea for optimizing daily protein intake. Since as shown in Brad Schoenfeld's 2018 study, in order to maximize muscle anabolism, your daily protein intake should ideally be spread across a minimum of 4 meals throughout the day.
Alright, this is not true. You don't need 4 meals. With 3 meals, you can be optimal for muscle growth. Ideally, for muscle growth, you can have 3 to 5 meals. If you just care about health, then 2 meals is enough.
Goal 4 is just vital for my overall well-being and adherence to the diet. So with that being said, let's start with meal 1. So my breakfast usually consists of a smoothie with the following ingredients: fruits and flaxseed for my micronutrients, fiber, and omega-3 intake, cashew milk since it's much lower in calories than dairy milk yet still provides calcium and vitamin D, whey isolate protein to contribute to my daily protein intake, and a few grams of cinnamon which helps add taste and has quite a bit of research supporting its ability to improve insulin sensitivity. And with my smoothie I usually have rice cakes and the other half of the banana. I prefer this as my pre-workout meal since it consists of a fast digesting protein and high glycemic index carbs.
Alright, I don't think it really helps to have fast digesting protein and high glycemic index carb. You definitely want a meal 1 to 2 hours before your workout, and you want to have some protein, some carbs, and some fat. You want to have, like, I would say at least 10 to 15 grams of carbs and a good amount of protein. But I don't think that the glycemic index matters and that the protein is fast digesting. That probably doesn't matter.
Which, as explained in my pre-workout meal video, seems to be ideal for performance based on the literature. Now, as for your post-workout meal, contrary to popular belief and as shown in this 2013 literature review on the topic, consuming a meal immediately post-workout doesn't seem to be very important if you've had a pre-workout meal with sufficient protein. But since you do ideally want to space out your protein intake, having another meal at least within a few hours after your workout would be recommended.
Yeah, so you don't have to have a meal directly after the workout because your anabolic window is pretty long. If you eat like in a few hours after the workout, as he says, that's pretty good. And one thing is that in the 12 hours after your workout, that's where your muscle protein synthesis is really high, and that's when you put most of your protein and calories if you really want to maximize muscle growth. If your goal is weight loss, you don't need to care that much about this.
I personally prefer keeping it simple with baked sweet potato, baked chicken breast, and a large salad on the side with low-calorie dressing. Again, simply sticking to unprocessed foods that help contribute to my overall micronutrient intake for the day. Throughout the day, I usually have a few more servings of various fruits and vegetables and a combination of black coffee and green tea. These are all quite low in calories yet help keep me full until the next meal. And the caffeine found in green tea and coffee is a natural appetite suppressant and has actually been shown to increase your caloric expenditure. Research from the Journal of Clinical Nutrition suggests that a couple cups of coffee can lead to an additional 80 or so more calories burned throughout the day. And the fact that research also shows that caffeine may increase fat usage by the body makes it something I'd recommend incorporating in your diet if you enjoy it.
I would be really careful with caffeine because it can be bad for sleep. If you drink more than one coffee, and even one coffee at noon or late in the morning can affect your sleep negatively. So the downsides of coffee on sleep are higher than the benefits of appetite suppressing effects. Because sleep is really important for stress and for weight loss. People who don't sleep enough, they won't lose as much weight as people who sleep well.
Sushi is by far my favorite food, so I tend to have it quite often. The great thing about knowing how much you should be eating is that you're able to fit in foods that you enjoy without it affecting your progress. Now, aside from being a relatively low-calorie, high-protein choice, the salmon helps provide the important omega-3 fatty acids DHA and EPA.
This is what's great about tracking your calories. You know exactly if you are on track, even when you eat sushi or you eat like something really unhealthy and high in calories. As long as you track your calories, you still know if you are on track or not.
Now, aside from being a relatively low-calorie, high-protein choice, the salmon helps provide the important omega-3 fatty acids DHA and EPA, which have recently been shown in a 2018 literature review to possibly help with anabolic signaling and muscle repair and growth. So intaking a few servings of fish per week and
Omega-3 has a lot more benefits than what people would think. It lowers blood lipids, anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, joint protection, reduce depression, improve cognition, reduce risk of cancer, better insulin sensitivity, increase testosterone production, increase muscle loss, and help with weight loss. Omega-3 is really great. And to eat enough omega-3, I recommend people to eat 700 grams of salmon every week.
supplementing with omega-3s is something I'd highly recommend.
If you eat enough omega-3 from salmon, fatty fish, then you don't need supplements. A lot of omega-3 supplements are not so good, and you are way better just eating fatty fish.
This is something I'll typically have shortly before bed since I personally enjoy going to bed feeling full and it doesn't impact my sleep. It's usually a combination of eggs, egg whites, toast, peanut butter topped with stevia sweetener, and a salad with 0-calorie dressing. And for those against eating this late, the literature has shown time and time again that eating carbs or even food in general late at night will not contribute to fat gain, given that you're still staying at a caloric deficit. Something I do want to mention though is that
Yeah, that's true. You can eat before sleep. It doesn't affect weight loss as long as you are in a calorie deficit over time.
for very calorie-dense foods like peanut butter, I would highly recommend that you take the time and effort to at least measure or even better weigh out how much you're using. Several studies have shown that underreporting calories is a very common reason why overweight individuals struggle to lose fat despite dieting, which is probably because it's so easy to do. For example, here's 300 calories worth of peanut butter compared to 100 calories. The difference is almost unnoticeable. Yet this can
So yeah, you can be careful with like peanut butter, oil, butter, things that are fat, because just a little bit more can be a lot more calories.
easily be the factor that's inhibiting your fat loss. So if you have any measuring tools, I'd suggest you use those. Otherwise, I'll leave a link in the description box down below to a very affordable scale that I personally use myself. But that's pretty much what a day of eating for fat loss looks like for me. Hopefully this provides.
So his day of eating is really nice. I really like it. Personally, I prefer low carb, high fat. So he eats like a lot of carbs compared to me. And you also see that every person has different tastes. He also eats 4 meals per day, while I only eat 2 at the moment. And I'm not sure if I would be fully satiated with these meals, because I like to eat really big meals. So I never tried to eat like this, and it would be interesting to try, but my current personal preferences is very different from what he eats. I would say the main difference is that I eat a lot more vegetables than this, and I eat big meals, and I'm way fuller. But it seems like a really good day of eating. I think I would probably enjoy that. I should try. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you liked the video. Like, subscribe, and comment below.